Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Hey, guys.
Or whatever day we're taping this. Hi, what are we all doing here? Why are we on a podcast?
Starting
it's
a
time
podcast,
for
I
the
guess.
Morins Lesson podcast. Watch this. Ready? Oh, it didn't work. I tried to play a sound.
Sam's got a sound box.
What happened to my sound box?
That's the cold open for the week.
Aw, what happened to my sound box?
Technology.
Next week.
Sam's still working on his podcasting skills. But yeah, we will soon have sound effects here on More or Less. And my take on why we're starting this is because, let's see, we're 4 people that are married, not all to each other. 2 sets of marriages, the Morins and The Lessins. We've been in and around Silicon Valley for a couple decades now, aging ourselves. And I think we have a lot of opinions around what is new and interesting and next. And we've been in the throes of entrepreneurship and venture. And we've also worked at major companies. This is like the new place to tune into to learn what's really going on under the hood here in Silicon Valley.
We also know each other's deep, dark secrets.
Per our usual friendship conversations, Dave and Britt can tee up fun topics about how the future is going to be awesome, and then I can shit all over them.
More or less.
More or less.
So we would say tune in every week to kind of hear what happened in tech this week, optimist view, pessimist view, sort of debated in real time from folks who were in it. So I like it. We're going to do it. Let's see how it goes. Busy week, good week to kind of kick things off, right? We've got the launch finally of Apple's, what should we call it? Ski goggle computer television face device?
I mean, Jess, we have to give you really big props for getting the industrial design right, many years ahead of time?
2 years ago, we published the render and it looks the same. So that tells you how long it takes to make
Weren't there some lawsuits threatened on that one?
This is where, when you say we know each other's deep, dark secrets, my husband gets me in trouble.
Editing skills.
To be clear, not that one. Not that one.
Oh, well then.
Plenty of others.
I'd love to hear about all your lawsuits, Jess.
Get me going on this pod by episode 3. We'll be there.
We'll see where we end up.
No, obviously, I'm really curious for what Dave, who worked at Apple, Sam and Dave, who worked at Meta, which is obviously the main competitor. I can't call it Meta.
I'm sorry. It's Facebook
for this
to me
device
forever.
right now. I'll just say, it seemed like the device came out and everyone was like, ugh. And then I woke up the next morning and tech reviewers were like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And all of a sudden, this tiny corner of the technology press had just decided this thing was the greatest thing from sliced bread. And I actually said in our editors meeting, what happened? We went to bed with one set of views and woke up with another. Now, first of all, people aren't going to be able to buy this until next year. And all we got this week, right, was some videos. But Dave, over to you. What should we make of this?
Well, I think that my judgment on the product itself has to be reserved until I experience it.
Does it really?
I think we can talk about the category. I mean, Sam, I think that we can talk about the category and what I think about the category. But I think it's really hard to have a product opinion about an experience that one doesn't have. I also think that in this category in particular, it's very hard to communicate what that experience is. My point of view is that it's almost impossible to communicate a 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional experience on a 2-dimensional screen. And we saw this with Meta. Every time Meta launched a new version of their headset, it was, try as they might, it was incredibly hard to translate what was going on inside the thing to your traditional launch channels in media. And I think that's actually a really interesting aspect of what's going on with this entire category. I think it's interesting that you didn't see any of our friends down there wearing the headset. There's no photos of anyone. wearing one, which I didn't. That was something I woke up this morning and I hadn't thought about yesterday. I was watching everything going on and trying to interpret it and develop an opinion about what I think. And I thought it was interesting that there were no live
and just for context,
photos
for people,
or videos.
Right? Your traditional Apple launch event is all about the product and all about getting the product in influencers' hands, tech influencers, celebrity influencers. Same with journalists, right? And I think in this case, we were not invited to attend this press spectacle, which is very typical for, I think the same is true of publications like Bloomberg that break a lot of news on Apple. So that's not that atypical. But I think some of the journalists got to use it, but not even all of the journalists.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of confused about. And maybe it's just early. That's why I think this is a very difficult conversation to have. The one thing I woke up this morning thinking was how impressed I was with the breadth of what happened yesterday. If you kind of put aside the Vision Pro itself, and then you look at the entire rest of what's going on, I mean, the Mac Pro is completely unbelievable from a silicon perspective. And what they're doing with chips is just crazy, and almost no one's talking about it. I woke up this morning going, okay, which thing am I excited to spend my money on? I want one of those towers to work on some of the, I've been playing around with vector databases and machine learning quite a bit. And I actually woke up this morning going, that's what I am excited to spend my money on. I'm excited to maybe spend my money on the Vision Pro, but I don't know what it feels like.
What about you, Britt? You buying one? You're a early adopter.
Well, here's how I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I could see, having worked in media for a long time, this is really cool for immersive entertainment, as are all headsets, I think. I do believe the screen technology that they've built is going to be they literally are going to be the sharpest, best screens in your house. Some of the integrations they've done with the eyesight stuff, is really cool. I would love to use them on airplanes first and foremost, because that's when I really want to be in my little cave. But I started thinking, regardless of what I think of this, and by the way, I do think it's going to get more universal, obviously, in 5 or 10 years when these look like real glasses, which everyone thinks will ultimately happen, but it's been a pipe dream for a long time.
Except for Sam. Sam thinks it'll take longer.
We'll get to you over there.
We're gonna go to Sam next.
Yeah, and I have one last thing to say before Sam gets in.
Okay. So I was here I am. I'm 37. We're all kind of in our late 30s, 40s. What we care about.
Is the point of the pod when you talk about how much younger you are than the rest of us?
Yeah, I just like to plug that every now. As the sole person in their 30s on this podcast.
I'm in my 30s.
Sam's got a month left.
Okay. I was like, does it even matter what we think, or is it really what Gen Z thinks?
Gen Z is not shelling out.
But that's the problem. It's $3,000. But when it's $500, it's just the cool factor. So we played the whole keynote for Ansel, our 8-year-old son, who's really 20 years old and is.
You guys are hilarious. You show your kids Apple.
To be fair, he wanted to watch it. We didn't play it for him. He was very keen on the news yesterday.
His body was literally shaking with excitement when this thing came on the screen. It was
it was interesting to watch.
Gravitational pull coming from the universe. He was oh my God. He was losing his shit. And then Bob Iger comes out from Disney and stuff. I'm not just.
Did he lose his shit for Bob Iger? He's oh my God, Bob Iger.
Marvel and all this stuff, ninjas you can fight. And I don't know, whatever.
8, right? Just 8, 9, 8.
He's 8.5. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just I'm not discounting. I think this is going to have really interesting implications for teens, Gen Z, future of entertainment, future of learning. I think creativity is going to be really interesting. So that's my macro take. Micro take is $3,000 is a lot of money for a lot of people, and I think Apple has said they have modest expectations, and we'll see what happens. Sam,
I have two other things to say before Sam jumps in.
Okay.
One thing is that I think that there's a divergent view of the future of computing playing out. One camp is represented by the more interface camp, and the other camp is represented by the less interface camp.
Who
That's
wants
clever,
more
Dave.
Ooh,
interfaces?
nice tie, Dave.
Ooh, so
The more
don't put
interface
AI
camp
in our family category.
Yeah, exactly. The more interface camp is Meta, is represented by Meta and Apple. When they displayed the example for sports was the one that I really keyed in on. You had this incredible amount of interface coming out in every direction. It's like as if what was this two-dimensional screen is becoming this entire, just more and more and more. And anytime you develop more interface, you have to learn it, right? And that takes time and cognitive overhead. And on the other hand, we have GPT representing the less interface camp, which on a daily basis, I'm mind blown by the sheer power. I mean, we're talking about a literal supercomputer that you can access by just chatting, and it's almost invisible. And I think you have a really divergent set of two futures playing out here, which to me, I think is one of the more interesting things happening at this moment in time. And so that was the other thing that it just really had me thinking all day yesterday.
Love it. Sam?
I mean, look, I think that there's this spectrum between science fiction, hardcore technology, and actual consumer experiences that you kind of play across in different dimensions. And a lot of people have made money in history by betting on science fiction plus hardcore being at the right moment when it goes into a consumer experience. But a lot of people have missed pretty hard where they confuse what is science fiction or what is hardcore tech with actual things that are ready for prime time in any way, shape, or form, right? So I think, look, VR. Is VR part of the narrative of the future of humanity? Unless we really fuck up, yeah, right? Like, it is, right? Like, and why? It's like, well, because we all live sweet lives, right? But a lot of people don't, and they live in shitty environments, and escaping into immersive 3D world where you're the hero of the story and spending all your time in super video games that are immersive is like obviously going to happen in some segments, right? Same thing with AI. It's like, will you have the her interface in some form that, both is a super cool companion in a lot of ways and helps you with a lot of stuff? Will a lot of people lose themselves into that plus VR, where it turns out the virtual girlfriend's way more compelling than the real girlfriend, et cetera? Yeah, like that's all part of a science fiction future. It's both optimistic and pessimistic, right? And it will play out on some timeline unless we can't get the fundamental tech there, right? Then you have the fundamental tech story. And that, I think, like, the GPT stuff, large language models is super fun to play with and super cool. I think it will accelerate product. It is consumerizable. It's not intelligence, right? But it's super cool and like really valuable that way. The thing I haven't gone deep enough on Apple stuff is like they're fundamentally great hardware people. Like there are a bunch of super hard problems to making any sort of VR environment real, right? Which gets down to things like, all right, like the resolution, brightness, like, energy management, power.
Yeah,
these are all like really hardcore problems that are really, really hard. And so if you're a $2 trillion company, if you commit enough resources and it's doable, will you eventually get there? That'd be cool, right? And like maybe this is a step or at least a tip in the hat in the direction of them making that very, very long-term investment. But then you get back to like, is this a consumer product anyone's going to use? And I don't think so, right? Is the honest answer.
To be fair, it wasn't positioned as one, right? Like it was positioned as a pro product.
I think.
I almost wish it was positioned more pro. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty clearly pro. They're like, when have you ever seen them launch a pro thing before the thing, right? Like at a price point that, like, I'm conflicted about whether I'll buy it. I might buy it just because I buy everything to play with it.
You'll buy it.
Yeah, I probably will, right? And I'll probably use it 3 times and then regret having bought it. But I think I'll tell you the difference, which is like when the iPhone came out, and I was in my 20s at that point, not 30s, right? Like I wanted one, and I didn't buy the first one because I loved my BlackBerry, and I still love my BlackBerry, but I knew I'd end up owning one, right? At some point.
You still have a BlackBerry?
No, I was saying I loved it then.
I would love if the BlackBerry came back.
The BlackBerry was the greatest device ever.
I want BlackBerry
right?
plus GPT more than anything right now.
You're not alone. I mean, the only problem is you also kind of want Spotify and Maps. Otherwise,
we can do those too. Just so long as the primary function is GPT and BlackBerry. Yeah.
Well, I'm with you on that.
Is there going to be a GPT phone?
I hope so.
I think it'll
I'd
be
seed
called
invest in
Android.
it.
Okay, first startup idea of the pod. Someone go build one and call
yeah,
these
yeah.
guys.
Should we have more or less inventions?
Okay, that's the
Request for
first one.
startups.
We're going to take 10% of all your future profits. Revenue,
No, we'll
not
give you
profit.
millions. What are you talking about? We're
Yeah,
investors.
we'll
It's
invest.
Like,
Yeah.
we'll,
Co-invest.
we're not
Yeah,
gonna. We don't
co-invest.
take anything. We'll give it
But
to you
we'll
for
have
free.
an SPV for the audience
Slow and
to
offline.
invest too. The audience
The,
can invest with us.
We'll write about you in the information. How about that?
There you go. I mean,
great.
like honestly, that's kind of
Go,
more the
go,
jam. There's a lot of free
entrepreneurs, go.
services packed on this call.
And talk about you on the pod. You can interview on the pod even.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't
we
know.
have to discuss where we're drawing the line, but return.
I don't know. So I think like, look, it's in the science fiction narrative. It's cool. I'm really interested in how they solved a bunch of like super hard engineering problems that my understanding are really fucking hard.
Yeah,
right?
there's
And,
clearly
like,
some
Eyesight stuff
insane
seems
technology.
like the eye tracking, eyesight stuff, I mean, seems pretty darn cool. I mean, I think by all accounts, the things that were really held it up were like the curved nature of the glass, which is really hard. Still has a battery pack, which is something they really wanted to avoid, but is just kind of
It makes
state of
sense
the
though.
tech today.
You need
Yeah,
a lot of
it doesn't actually
energy.
seem that big a deal to me now. It's sort of at the time.
people look pretty stupid with it.
The
But I think that
pack-
was going to happen anyway. It doesn't matter
we all
when you put a
wearing
computer on your
sunglasses.
head. You know, when you put a computer on your
Yeah.
head, you're not. You know, it's just-
We put a fucking CD player on our console in our cars and with a tape connected to it in the car.
that's fair. That's fair.
Like we are the generation that
I don't know.
is cool
As
with
I'm
it.
talking, I'm like, I've got like physical therapy tape on my shoulder. I don't know
That's
that,
fair.
you know, sometimes you just like make it work. It's for my posture.
I have a
in case
question
everyone's
though.
wondering.
I mean, okay, Sam, if you could develop like the ultimate personal computing device, what would the form factor be?
Oh, I'm in Dave's camp. I think he's right. I think it's a zero interface thing, right? Like for sure, right? I definitely don't want. I mean, I'm surrounded by enormous amounts of screens right in this moment, right? But I don't want them, right? Like, so that's unquestionably true. I mean, I think if you want to
So
be really
just
abstract,
ambient
like
spatially around you.
like in the science fiction to reality thing, it's like Neuralink and like everyone's messing around with human brain interface. They're not wrong, right? It's just like a ridiculous science project that, you know, compared to like where reality. Now, I'm happy people pursue those things. You know, I do think it's kind of weird that as a country, if you think about it, there's like kind of three organizations that in theory could pursue this stuff. Like it's academics, the government, or private businesses, right? And like it's kind of a weird moment in history where like a lot of these Grail-esque type projects, like they're not being done in academia because they're too expensive and like the coordination doesn't work. Government has kind of absolved this, right? There, you know, I'm always hoping the government's doing super cool shit that we don't know about, and it might be true in some categories.
and there's a story we
but,
could
like,
talk about from this week in that realm.
Yes, there is, and we should get into that. But I'd say like the government doing cool shit, like, you know, if the government was developing AI, there'd be all sorts of other problems, right? But like, there's a different story there, and then you end up with this weird thing where like a few incredibly rich private companies can, and like how they select what to spend those resources on, and like, you know, what's actually accretive to shareholders versus just like legacy building, you know, how they think about their brand and these things, I think is like pretty weird, honestly. So I'm not against it. I think it's great. It's just like, it's a weird point we are in history where like, yes, there are these science fiction futures, but they're not coming from academia. They're not coming from nonprofits. They're not coming from the government. They are coming from a handful of like super rich companies that can afford to kind of shave off a few $1 billion here or there to play.
Or they could be coming from super advanced civilizations in parts unknown.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think those are great thoughts on this topic. We have a couple more. I want to get to your secret government topic. And then we, of course, have to get to the Coinbase lawsuit. Sorry, Sam, but we're going to need to talk about the
I didn't even know that happened.
suing. What?
Yeah, Dave, did you miss the news yesterday?
I could only handle potential.
Crypto was down.
I could only handle Apple Reality Pro and potential UFOs in government secret hangars
I'm
in one
fascinated
day. I'm
with Sequoia,
sorry.
but if we don't have time to get to that, we
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have time
Sequoia
to
is
get to
good.
that. So what did you guys want to talk about secret government stuff?
Well, it seems like there is a pattern of disclosure going on at the government level related to potential, unidentified aerial phenomena. And, there's not hard data yet. Nothing's been shown. But these disclosures seem to be happening at an increasing rate. And the people who...
I kind of missed this. Did the government say that UFOs are real?
Yeah, there was a piece yesterday by Leslie Keene, who's not she's a pretty respectable journalist. And I can't remember who the co-author was. I believe it was on Debrief or something like that.
Was it Zork from the planet Klingon?
No. But, there was a pretty interesting set of data displayed yesterday, which I think somewhat changes the tapestry of the conversation. And
so, Dave, have you read this book, Area 51, An Uncensored History?
Yes.
Great book.
This is a book alert. There'll be a lot of these on the pod. We read a lot of books. Say it again, Sam.
Fabulous book. Casey Neistat told me to read it. Loved it. Right. Yeah. And I mean, the argument that book makes, I think, fairly compellingly is that if you look at the history of government UFO disclosures, a lot of it comes down to the fact that there's this really hard problem, which is the government's, specifically with Area 51, was always testing super advanced technology, and people would see it because it's pretty hard to hide all the time. And then they'd have this really awkward position where they didn't want to confirm it, but they didn't want to deny it. And so people would be like, oh, it's a UFO. And they're like, I guess we'll confirm this to cover up the fact that it's actually the SR-71 Blackbird, right? And so I just wonder, I agree, more cameras, more everything, more chatter, you're going to get more of this stuff. But the Occam's razor to this,
for sure,
is kind of the Area 51 uncensored history explanation, which is the government's been very wishy-washy about both promoting and squashing this for political / cover-up reasons that kind of leads you to believe there'll just be more of that, right?
So we got to do a poll here. So what do we believe? If and do you think?
I think the poll is kind of, do you, based on what you're hearing today in 2023, I like what Dylan Field's been doing. Every year he asks the same question, which is, do you believe in this more or less today than you did last year? And that kind of, I think, is the question. What does this information change of your worldview, if anything at all? I think the one thing in this set of data that's most interesting and is that there's a scientist from Stanford named Gary Nolan. And he's talked about this in somewhat public forums before, but it's been pretty under the radar. This is the most public I've ever seen him talk about it. And we do some stuff around this down at the Esalen Institute, where I'm the chairman. And so I've heard about this stuff a lot in the past. But he has materials that he has run studies on, which he claims are from this program and from interacting with government agencies of various types. And these materials don't have isotopes that are known on Earth. And I think that's a pretty interesting set of data that doesn't have an explanation. And, I guess we need confirmation from wherever it came from. But it's, interesting material science.
Okay, so Sam, do you think UFOs, objects of non-human made origin, do we want to ask the yes or no question, or do you believe more in them now than you did a year ago question?
Now than a year ago.
Okay, Sam, you're first.
Well, I'd say I definitely believe that it seems likely that aliens exist in some form in the infiniteness of the universe. Are they buzzing around Earth in ships? No.
Okay. Dave?
My opinion hasn't changed on this, but I was aware of this information a few years ago.
You believe that there's
the aliens are stronger now than it was last year, Dave?
Yes, there's more people talking about it. I think that one of the things I had heard a few years ago was that the focus on this is not just in the air, but it's in the water. And the fact that when you read the appropriations documents that have been moving through the Senate and et cetera, they changed the name of this committee that they formed to be the Underwater and Aerial Phenomena Study Committee. I had heard that. It was something, that I had heard a while ago. But the fact that these things are actually starting to move into these bills and into like very serious procedural machinations of the government says to me that there's more here than we might know. But I'm a data-driven guy, so I want to see the data.
Britt?
Well, my venture brain is wondering, what is this new material, and can we create anything interesting out of it for future generations?
I do not think that seed funds will be the ones lining up to profit on
I think
that.
so.
No. Sadly, it may be the same. It may be the same buckets of capital that you talked about in the last conversation, Sam.
Also, like if I was an alien and I was from an advanced tech world planet, wouldn't you try to shrink yourself down to be like almost invisible if you're going to go spy in the U.S.? Like I would be like a fly.
Well, but I think they're not talking about like sentient human like life.
No, they're talking about craft.
Other shit we can't explain. Like I don't know. I think
they're talking about materials and propulsion.
Yeah.
And also,
stuff.
I have many questions. Like, does craft just mean like material, or does it like mean it doesn't mean a
Flying
vehicle?
objects
It's just stuff.
or swimming objects.
Stuff. I don't know. I believe there's stuff out there. It's a big, I listen to a lot of podcasts with the kids. I mean, there's a lot big universe. Okay, from the alien to the crypto, because I think we got.
So Jess, I read it just to make a fine point. It says the material includes intact and partially intact vehicles.
Okay, I also want to know what a vehicle is. Wheel,
It's a Bronco. It's a Bronco made of weird isotopes.
I'm also,
There's a big opportunity.
the editor in me is fascinated. This was in this publication, the debrief. I guess it's based on like a whistleblower. Fascinating. No, this is a good find. This is a good one to keep the brain humming. So the SEC, which has made no secret of its fact that its plan is to sue every major crypto project in the United States, including some not, right? I actually sued Binance the day before they sued Coinbase. We knew this was coming. Coinbase actually built a whole PR campaign around the fact
hasn't
it
this
was
been
coming.
kind of a back and forth for quite a while at this
point? They got a
point?
Wells notice a few weeks ago. So we knew it was coming, but it's here. And I think the reaction we heard is, it's actually a pretty broad case. Like many of the cases to date had been arguing over whether a particular token was a security. This case is also talking and claiming that it is not legal to operate exchanges. I think even questioning some of the situation around wallets. So way broader, I think, than others. But Sam, you obviously follow this.
Everyone's got their own narrative around this, and who knows? The reality is my understanding is like the government's basically losing the SEC's losing the XRP case, right? The Ripple case.
Which is over the token as security.
Yeah, what was that case? Just so everybody understands.
Just claiming that XRP, the Ripple token's a security, and they've actually, my understanding is basically lost all of the major cases they've tried to go against legitimate projects. They've won them against the things that are pure scams, which there are in crypto. Like they've won some cases, but all the major ones of legitimate projects they've lost. And my understanding is they're trying to be aggressive, but they're kind of going for partial victories wherever they can get them right now. Look, I think the really big story on this, honestly, is the thing the crypto industry has been asking for literally a decade is just clarity, right? And so to some degree, technology moves pretty fast. There's a lot of really interesting applications of this type of stuff. I think it's great that effectively, I don't think even the SEC is claiming things like Bitcoin or Ethereum are actually securities anymore, right? That we've kind of moved beyond that. And so I think a lot of these kind of things
is that true, or is this wrapped up in that question?
I don't think so. I think everyone's even the SEC has come to, and again, my understanding is those two, as in terms of how they were launched and how they've grown, are not considered securities by anyone. So look, I think in the end of the day, the only thing the crypto community really wants is clarity more than anything else. And if this is one step more towards clarity and some pain on the way there, that's fine. So I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic that the ball is moving forward. The regulators are getting more sophisticated. There'll be good things put in place, and I do actually think people understand in the government that if you want the United States to be an innovator in this is happening with or without the U.S. laws need to be good and clear, right? You know, you don't want bad actors, you do want good actors, you do want good policy. So I don't know, my kind of net on the whole thing is like, it's fine. And if anything, it's like better for it to happen sooner than later. And like it isn't like there's any super smoking gun here. It's going to be like a lot of like effectively trench warfare over very specific things, which will play out over a very long period of time.
Is this the right way to go about this?
It's the political way. People want to score points in different places. I mean, it's the horse we got. I mean, I don't like right or wrong. Like, I think what would have been right would have been had clarity on this at a federal level a decade ago, right?
I think what you outlined, Sam, is how regulation of new technology often proceeds, especially in the US. But I'm not sure that's going to happen in this case. I mean, if you zoom out, like, you know, players in the industry are incredibly weakened by this. I mean, there's been a lot of factors besides regulation to like the collapse of key parts of the ecosystem.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of shocking to me that there's this big regulation.
They're going to have to leave the country, you know? I mean, they're backpedaling on that a little bit.
It's a big world. I mean, Bitcoin's down. I'm looking right now in the last week, 2%. ETH is down a percent. Like, this is kind of a big nothing burger from how the crypto markets are digesting it, right? And these are highly global things. So, look, the U.S. should have good regulation, and we should be a leader in this, and we're set up to be, and we have the technology, we have the tech, we have a lot of things in our favor on this side.
It's deeply frustrating that we're not.
But it is what it is, and like, you know, the world will, as technology always does, reorganize around whatever the government decides is reality. I mean, you know, we can have, just in Europe, you can have 1,000 GDPR pop-ups if that's what the government really wants, and like, fine, right? So like, I'm not super worried about it long-term. Technology, I think, will kind of continue to march on, and I'd be happy for there to be more clarity, personally.
I think the same thing's playing out with AI, right? And it's like a shame it took the government so long to do this for crypto. Like, I think we're going to have to figure out what the AI regulation stuff
I think there's a big difference, guys. I
mean, I think there's a big difference.
The current position of the U.S. government is basically that Coinbase shouldn't exist. I mean, if you look at the number of businesses that it's arguing are operating illegally is numerous.
Well, to be clear, it's not the government, it's the SEC.
I'm sorry,
right?
the SEC.
And
right? But the government has decided they're not going to legislate, and Gary's going to legislate. So I think
Gary's decided that Gary's going to legislate.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that
he,
like that's actually
he has a boss, right? And so I think that like, I mean, we've all covered and witnessed sort of Washington being more or less aggressive in different like tech epochs, but I think the current, you know, the administration isn't saying like, let's put up some safeguards around crypto. They're basically saying these things shouldn't operate. And look, if Coinbase is like the most legitimate of the players. So I don't think it will end in Armageddon. And I think that, you know, the global point is the right point in terms of what happens to the technology. But like, I don't think, it's very rare to basically, you know, it's like the government suing Meta and saying actually photo sharing is illegal, and actually letting people upload text is illegal, and like
they're fishing. They want a pound of flesh, right? And what I basically say is like the one thing I will say I think is precarious for crypto at this moment, and I've said this for a long time and I really believe it, is the way this usually works with technology regulation is some people want something, but there's a ton of user benefit that people really care about, and so they can't go too far because the people really want it. So AI in Europe
is the TikTok situation.
Well, and it's also like the hilarious OpenAI Italy situation, where like Italy was like, OpenAI is completely non-compliant with our privacy laws. Absolutely true, right? And we're shutting it off, and like OpenAI put up a web form. And Italy's like, well, if you put up the web form, which does nothing to solve the problem, then like I guess it's okay. But like really the story there is Italy's like, fuck, our people kind of want this, right? And so I think the story of crypto right now, the reason I think it is slightly different, or like it does need to figure it out, is like the way this usually works is like people are like, I love this thing, it's super valuable, I really care about it, and like there's a balance there. I think crypto's in a moment where like it's searching for a meaningful use case beyond Bitcoin. I think those exist. But like the timeline is ticking to have those in a way that people care about, or the government gets a lot more free rein to be like, well, we don't like this, and no one seems to give a shit, right? And that's the place you don't want to be as a tech platform,
Yeah.
right?
Brett, I
for
cut
sure.
you off.
With
Do you
that,
want
I
to
gotta
say
run,
more
guys.
about regulation?
Okay, we can wrap. Oh, okay.
Oh, so I think Sam's out. You know, everyone's got a ticking schedule here at More or Less. We keep it busy.
Busy
Although he
week.
did promise to be here for the majority going forward.
The point I was trying to make was just more that, like, I'm hopeful. It'd be great. This is a pipe dream. This is the more of me. If like we could get in a more accelerated rhythm with government regulation, with some of these key innovations happening in technology, and I think like I would imagine the time it took to start regulating crypto more efficiently is going to be longer than the time it takes to regulate AI, just because of the pace it's moving. And I think that like the lawmakers are they're forced to like figure this out faster because it's impacting so much of the economy, right? So crypto wasn't, I think, having as much of an impact on the economy as AI will, and there will be like an accelerated time frame to start leaning in there.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have exhaustive conversations about AI regulation because, man, that's going to be a fun one. Okay, guys, we should probably wrap. But before, does anyone have like a win of the week they want to share? Something great that happened? Something great they saw, read?
Oh my gosh, so many things.
I know. We're like, oh, it was a bad week. There isn't not much. It's just like get your kids graduated from preschool week.
Yeah, we are. Okay, I have something.
Okay.
Buzz Patch. They are stickers that repel mosquitoes that your kids can wear so they don't have to spray them with yucky, smelly stuff. And as a chaperone of the school camp out last week, I can attest
How did
that
that
the
go?
children
You
loved
survived.
them. It was everything you would have expected of chaperoning a first to fifth grade school camp out for 2 nights. However, having a little innovation in there made a difference. And like kids wearing stickers rather than like being sprayed with.
Do they work? I mean, I've tried all those things. None of them work. It's like shark bands. I think they're the opposite effect, but yes.
Well, we were like testing them by holding like a hand with a sticker on it up as a mosquito was like circling, and it did fly away. So, I mean, we did some experimentation.
That's what you love. Britt's got the recommendation. She's got the test. I love it. Mine's more of a plea now that Sam is gone. I need Father's Day gift ideas like ASAP. So if anyone has ideas, he's a tough man to buy stuff for.
Dave's really interested in like high-tech grilling equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I asked ChatGPT and it gave me it gave me the answer you'd expect, like something personalized. And if he's outdoorsy, buy him a sporting bag.
He's got too many sporting bags. He doesn't need another one.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's got, so anyway,
I heard about an electric mountain bike that some friends of ours are using in Kauai that might be a good one for him. I'll send it to you later.
He drives one of he bikes now the boys around on this electric thing that, I don't know, we'll find.
These are very nice Mother's Day gifts. I don't think my Mother's Day gift compares to right. So
I got an ice cream cake from Baskin Robbins, Brett.
Yeah, I think I just got like some pancakes.
I've got a weird one. I've been doing a bunch of machine learning programming the last couple of weeks, and I stumbled upon this product called Chroma that's a vector database that I'm very excited about, and
do you want to explain vector databases, or should we save that for another
time? I feel like we should save that.
We could do it another time, but when you're trying to take some type of data and put it into a machine learning pipeline to learn things from it, there's a part of that process called embedding. And, there's a bunch of different products, and I looked at them all, and I really like Chroma. And it's made my my sort of creativity has been inspired by it this week. So I view that as a positive.
There's some runway.ml has some new tools that are kind of cool. That's been like one of my favorite AI tools to date.
Plug for the Information's generative AI database, about 10 days old, walks through the 40 to 50 most important companies in the space.
Cool.
Ooh.
What is a pod without a plug?
We'll drop that in the show notes.
Well, it's great to see you guys. This was fun.
Yeah.
People
Happy
should
first
send us
episode.
their thoughts in the comments, find us on email, the Twitter. Does
I don't think
anyone
you can say the twit, Jess.
don't? I don't know. We're all still on Twitter.
Indeed.
Linda Yaccarino
We'll get a
started this
handle.
week.
We'll get a handle going.
We'll get a handle. And yeah, thanks for listening. Great to see you guys.
See you
Talk
guys
to you
next
soon.
week. All right. Bye.
Bye.